Thank you so much, team. Now to turn our attention to the movies. Advocate Bram Fischer, who was the legal defense of anti-apartheid figures like Nelson Mandela at the Rivonia Trial, had more to lose in opposing apartheid than the average white freedom fighter. A new film called An Act of Defiance chronicles his story during the iconic and dramatic trial in 1963. Let's take a look.
Woorden, gediertes, respect, rechtvaardigheid, menselijkheid. Wapens van minwaarde.
Als wij van die wereld een betere plek maken.
These men have chosen to fight.
I plead not guilty.
Iemand moet zijn smoel bent.
These men love their country as much as they love the notion of being free men.
Is it worth it?
Had je ooit van Mandela die vraag gevraagd? Equal in the eyes of their government, their peers. Equal in the eyes of this court.
An Act of Defiance is hitting cinemas this Friday, the 26th of April, in time for Freedom Day on Saturday, the 27th of April. Now, Antoinette Louw, who plays Bram's wife, Molly Fischer, along with associate producer Dr. Lwazi Manzi, join us on Expresso this morning to share more on how the film all come together. Ladies, good morning. I saw a little hug going on there. The amount, I love it. I didn't get the memo, but it's all good. Next time. The amount of pride you must be feeling for knowing that this film opens up on the weekend, and I'm sure so much went into it. I'm going to begin with you, Lwazi. You are a doctor.
Yes.
Emergency room is where you found yourself on a daily basis, and then you turned your attention to becoming a film producer.
Yes.
Why the decision to do that?
Because I'm a certifiable masochist.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, as an emergency doctor and mainly working in the state system, I saw a lot of suffering and pain. And I realized after some time that all of the suffering and pain was really caused by mental subjugation. And of course, our history, apartheid history, has a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
And, you know, to quote the philosopher James Baldwin, if we don't tell ourselves the truth about our past, we become trapped in it.
Wow.
And I think that dawned on me back then, you know, even though I only really heard that, that quote later. Yeah. And when I found myself in the film industry, I saw it as an opportunity really to have much more of a mass impact, a much more effective impact rather than this sort of one-on-one revolver door syndrome. And of course here we are, and this is our attempt at telling ourselves the truth about our past.
I love it. And why this particular South African story?
Well, indeed, I'm carrying on with this saying is that, you know, as much as I love the ANC, and the ANC is always going to be my political home. My grandmother herself was a ANC stalwart. She has 2 streets named after her, much like Bram Fischer. But we haven't told ourselves the entire truth about our past, you know. And here is a story about the Communist Party's involvement in the struggle, and about women's involvement in the struggle. And as much as I love the ANC, I just feel like, you know, the narrative of the struggle and for freedom has been hijacked a little bit. And we'd like to get a different perspective.
I love it. Talking about this different perspective, Antoinette, so good to have you on the show as well.
Thank
You play Bram's wife, Molly Fischer. Why was it important for you to bring her story to the forefront? And of course, what was one of the most interesting, you know, parts of this journey for you?
I never knew much about Bram Fischer because of the time that I grew up in. And as I started doing research, I read all the books and documentaries and spoke to Ruth, Bram and Molly's oldest daughter, I had to find something that I can relate to. And I realized, but I relate 100% with these people. They wanted to create empathy and understanding within each other. And to reiterate what you were saying, I mean, for me, storytelling it's the gym for empathy. And as humans, we are so easy to put people in boxes. And that creates division. And the old regime used that. And this story And these people turns everything upside down. It bursts that box open, and hopefully through that creates less division, to create more understanding and openness.
I love what you were saying about telling a full 360 story. Why do you think it's so important to hear both sides? Because just like during that time, there were those that had very sinister motives. There were also those who had very good motives.
Absolutely.
And it's also important to focus on that.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, South Africa is trapped in its past, isn't it? We're still struggling very much with interpersonal relations, interracial relations and interpolitical relations. And the reason for that is that, you know, we had a half-cooked sort of reparative process. You know, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission didn't quite take it all the way there. And so, you know, we're doing our bit as artists to address that shortfall in our actually redressing properly our past so that we can move forward into the future.
Before we go, why should South Africans go and watch this film?
Because Antoinette is on it.
Yes, I mean, that's one reason. Enough said.
It creates hope. South Africans, we have so much tenacity, and sometimes we forget it, and we need to remember it, and that's why you come and have to watch the film. Yeah,
I love that. South Africans, you hear that? We have so much tenacity, and we must never forget that. Don't miss this in-depth look at the tribulations of Bram Fischer's life during the iconic Rivonia Trial in the new film An Act of Defiance, which opens this Friday, the 26th of April, in selected cinemas nationwide.